Good morning, Karin.
Good morning, Liz.
I just want to talk to you a bit about your experience of working with Aspire. You were one of our local artists in year one of Aspire, and I just wondered how you found the experience of working collaboratively in a group of artists.
I was looking very much forward to it, to getting out from my studio and mixing with other people and having feedback, which is the big problem working on your own. But it was quite hard to get back into the mode of working as a group. It was incredibly tiring and sort of reached parts of the brain that obviously I hadn't exercised for a long time. But it was very, very valuable working with experienced artists and artists who were almost on the same level as me.
So I know that you graduated in 2007 as a mature student, doing your fine art degree. And I'm just wondering how the Aspire community of artists, the 7 artists that were working together, how that actually influenced you and whether it was the link to the art centre was a positive thing for you.
Yes, very much so. I think what it did is push me out of my own comfort zone. I sort of find my own little ways of working at home in my studio. As I said, it was quite isolating. Not much, there's nobody there to discuss your work with. But coming into a different group of artists who all have their own individual practices sort of made me really re-question my own work and put up the stakes a bit as well. I felt I had to really push myself that little bit further, and also it was very valuable from being mentored but also helping young people to open up their worlds to the arts a little bit more. So it was very very valuable from that point. That it just made me question my own work and challenge myself a bit more.
I think that sort of leads us on now, because you're about to undertake your first solo exhibition in this very gallery, the Fernway Gallery at the King's Lynn Art Centre. What we've decided to do with this exhibition is to embed education work right at the beginning of your concept, really, haven't we? And I think normally this is something that's done possibly as an add-on, a bolt-on at the end. When you've got your exhibition, you can usually add some education work to it. So I'm just wondering if you could tell us about whether that was something that you found easy to do, or what your experience of it was.
It came quite easy, mainly because of my work being so involved around the fairy tale and the storytelling, which a lot of it obviously is aimed at children, but not necessarily exclusively so. I also always like my work to be accessible to all groups and people to get as much out of it as possible. So that wasn't, for me, that wasn't a problem at all. In fact, I sort of really enjoyed it, that I'm able to do something that go that little bit extra, go that little bit further for everyone to be able to get the most out of the exhibition. And I think the more people that can access the art centre and get as much out of it as possible, the better it's going to be. I don't want to produce work that's exclusively for people who have had an art education or are used to going to galleries.
I think my experience of working with you on that has been that you're very generous in terms of your artistic sharing. You are quite happy for people to understand where you're coming from, find out how you do things. So you share not only your ideas but also your skills, which has been an element of Aspire. And I know you ran a really interesting workshop for our sort of associate young artists, where you're helping them towards a line of merchandising for the Chasing Tales exhibition.
I think a lot of artists there's two sorts, and some just wouldn't give anything away and make it sound like a big secret. It's all very vague how they produce their artwork, but I think I've been sort of nurtured by various artists through the degree and beyond, and Aspire, and I love it to be able to discover something and share it, or learn something from somebody else and share it. That's how we learn as human beings, isn't it? It's something essential that you want to pass on your knowledge. After all, you're getting something back.
Yeah. So we're about to embark on this venture, Chasing Tales into the Wood, which is your first solo exhibition. We're in the Fernway Gallery talking about it, which is a large space, echoing. So I'm just wondering how you are going to deal with that concept of sort of going from the transition from very small objects that you normally make as a maker to an installation.
It came about as sort of an idea of taking elements from different fairy tales, but not specific ones. When I reread the stories, I found there's a lot of things, tales in common. There's often hardship, poverty, looking for a better life, maybe a prince to marry.
Bring it on.
Yeah, we're all looking for those. There was often quite an interesting middle bit where you have to go through some very dark and maybe sometimes unpleasant things or challenges. So sort of filtered out some of these generic ideas, and I want to sort of roll them into a story that is open to interpretation, so that you can make choices on the way. So it can be a different story for each person. So obviously I had to enlarge some of the objects, which actually works very well, because if you make something very big that is normally not all that big, it makes you feel like a child again. For instance, I'm making an apron, an oversized apron that belongs to the mother in the story, but by making it bigger, I'm hoping that even an adult who comes in has got that same feeling of being actually quite small. That will help me, hopefully, to not just fill the space, but give more presence to the space. Another element will be a small forest, which I will construct from large branches, which will reach pretty much the ceiling of the gallery. Although it won't be a full-size forest, of course, it will still have that feel of being close and quite crowded. The other thing is lighting, of course, which we've decided to keep quite low and spotlight individual small objects and make them feel precious.
It all sounds very magical, and sort of mysterious. As you say, with fairy tales, you get that. Sometimes you get that edge of you're sort of excited, but it's a bit frightening as well. And I think for us, with the education side of things, this will be a marvellous entree to the visual arts and something like that.
I think that will manage to get that magical feel across.
Yeah.
And this is excitement of coming into the gallery that I hope to be able to produce and build up to, but also that little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of fear. Like with the stories, there's a little bit of excitement, but also you're not